Hi, I'm Rich Wisneski. Welcome to Sunday Storytime.
Of the bananas.
So on Sunday Storytime, here at To Karen with Love, I tell a story completely from memory without fact-checking it first. Then, after the story is posted, using your comments and the Google, I research my story to find out how much, if any of it, was true. This week on Sunday Storytime, I had a story all prepped, told, edited, ready to send to you, and my computer, he got sick. He wasn't feeling great, and it's gone. It's gone, and all the other story times beforehand are gone, but you can still see them on YouTube. Here. So rather than panic or not post, I thought I'd try something a little bit different today. So on the YouTube, there are a couple of channels that I really love. Film Theory, Cinema Wins, and Film Joy. Film Theory is hosted by Matt Pat. He takes an idea from television, film, or YouTube and gives like cool theories or explains the science behind things. Really fun stuff. Cinema Wins is a lot like Cinema Sins, except instead of nitpicking all of the things that are wrong with a film, they do the opposite, and take a film and spend 25 minutes telling you all the tiny details that are wonderful. And then on Film Joy, they have a series called Movies with Mikey, where this really smart guy takes a film and just gives this like loving dissertation on the film. Even if it's a film he's not a fan of, just his wit and the things that he says and thinks about it are wonderful. I like these channels, one, because I like hearing smart people talk about things they love, and also because I really like bad movies. Not a lot of bad movies, but there's some movies that people think are bad that I unironically love. Like, for example, I love Godzilla. I love all of the Godzilla, and by that, I mean I love the terrible Godzilla too. Like, you know, Matthew Broderick singing in the rain, multiple scenes dedicated to French Special Force Secret Service, talking about how bad our coffee and breakfast is, just, like, all of it. It's wonderful. I love it. Now, when I say I love Godzilla, Godzilla was my wedding cake topper. So, I'm a big fan, and yet I love the dumb one, too, because there's a lot of fun things to love in it. Why I bring that up is I made an observation recently about a group of films that most people agree are terrible. And it's an observation that maybe doesn't save the films, but at least gives them a better explanation than is currently available. And it's a kind of thing that I would like to see on a Movies with Mikey or a Film Theory. But since I don't know that they have that observation, and since I don't know them personally, I thought I would just share that observation with you guys. And in the style of Sunday Storytime, I'm going to explain this out without going back and rereading the comics involved or rewatching the films, and just kind of spitball this idea with you. And hey, if you like it, or just wildly disagree with me, feel free to share it with those sources if you want. If it got into their hands and they do it better than me, I will be thrilled. So, without further ado, I'm going to now talk about the thing. I'm going to tell a story. In the Zack Snyder DC films, so I'm talking about Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, we don't need to go further than that for this idea. Everyone pretty much agrees that they're dark. They're dour. They're unpleasant. Superman's grumpy. Jesse Eisenberg is weird. Batman murders people. It's not a great place. But when I was watching Batman v Superman, I saw something during the 18th cinematic retelling of Bruce Wayne's origin. When Bruce Wayne was in the cemetery, following his parents' graves, he passes a gravestone that says Richard Grayson. Now, either the born on date or the died on date is 1982, which stuck out to me because I was born in 1982. So like most other people, saw the rest of the film, I thought Ben Affleck did a much better job than I was expecting. I wished Superman was more super. I really liked Wonder Woman. I really hated Doomsday. The end. So then I went back home, went about my life, and then I just started thinking about DC as a whole. Now, in DC Comics, way back in the day, there was never this idea of a connected universe. So as crossovers started happening, things started to get weird. Like, you would have superheroes, like over in Marvel, Mr. Fantastic and the Thing had a shared history in World War II. And then as time moved forward, but they didn't as characters, their war history got shifted to, I believe, Korea, and then just went away entirely. They never went to war. The Punisher originally was a Vietnam vet, and now I believe he's an Afghan vet. I don't know if they've officially made that jump, but they did make that jump in the television series. So DC had like the Justice Society and the Justice League and just a whole bunch of stuff that had been around for a while, and now they had cities, like there were 6 cities that were supposed to be New York, but none of them were New York, and where are these places? So they had a big crossover event whose purpose was to completely just obliterate everything and start over with a fresh slate that explains everything. In that story, there was an evil Superboy who I believe was part of a future team of the Legion of Superheroes, that's what it was. And I think his timeline stopped existing, and he didn't like our timeline because he said it was too dark and too grim and too dour, so he was going to wipe us all out and reset the one where his timeline would happen because it's a lot more cheerful. So he's going to massacre all of existence to bring back a different all of existence, which isn't very Superboy. Once it's revealed that that's what he's doing, he eventually has a conversation, I think in the Batcave, with Batman. And they're kind of doing that thing from the Bible where he's like, I'm gonna kill everybody. Yeah, well, what if there's like 10,000 good people? Will you not kill all the people then? He's like, alright, fine, you can fight 10,000. Like, they're doing that thing. And Batman eventually asks Superboy, what about Dick Grayson? And Superboy, who has been smug and confident the whole time, pauses. And Batman asks him again, was Dick Grayson a total jerk in our world compared to yours? Like, is our Dick Grayson a terrible person? And Superboy has to admit that he's not. That Dick Graysons are apparently universally awesome, which I agree with, by the way. So that reveal in the comic, and this comic came out a long time before the Zack Snyder films, made me think about the seeing Dick Grayson's grave in the Batman movie, the Batman v Superman movie. The time on the grave also was interesting to me because Dick Grayson was born and died while Bruce Wayne is still a child. So I started thinking about shifts in time and the tone that that would create. Because DC has it established that a focal moral center of their universes is Dick Grayson, which, just as a very quick aside, is one of the reasons, the many reasons why that Teen Titans television show is going to be garbage. Batman. So there are 3 very big time shifts in the DCEU. Superman doesn't show up until modern time. Wonder Woman shows up in World War I and then goes back into hiding. And Dick Grayson was born before Batman or same time as Batman and then died. So that's 3 pillars of morality, truth, and justice that haven't existed. That affects 2 people very strongly. Lex Luthor and Batman. Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg, in my theory, is not Lex Luthor. He's Alexander Luthor, Lex's son. Lex Luthor in the comics grew up in a terrible ghetto. It's called something awful, like Crime Town or Sadnessville. It has a dumb name. Anyway, so Lex Luthor, like, murders and, like, little fingers his way to prominence and wealth and power with just a skeleton just full of skeletons. Just, did I say a skeleton full of skeletons? So anyway, very guilty Lex Luthor manipulates his way to the very top, builds himself up to be just this corporate dynamo, and once he has made himself the physical, mental, financial epitome of what man can be, this alien shows up who's objectively better by existing. With zero effort, Superman is better than him at everything. And even though Superman had his powers and life handed to him through no work of his own, he is loved universally, whereas Lex Luthor has to pay people to like him. That's one of the sources of their conflict, if not the source of their conflict. Now imagine if instead that Lex Luthor gets to the very top and there's nothing to conquer. There's no Superman. There's no better man. He can have whatever he wants, and he does. He's unopposed. People are like, yeah, Lex Luthor's pretty great. So once he's accomplished everything he can accomplish, the only achievement left is to create a progeny that surpasses you. And instead, what he gets is Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg, because of his father's success, is born into the lap of luxury, which Lex resents him for. Jesse Eisenberg is born incredibly intelligent, but no killer instinct, which his father resents him for. So you have a man who is genetically created to go toe-to-toe with Superman, and the only opponent that life has given him is his shitty son. No wonder Jesse Eisenberg is just a barrel of neuroses and Jolly Ranchers. I mean, he's gotta be crazy. So in that respect, Jesse Eisenberg isn't trying to be Lex Luthor. He's the Alexander Luthor picking up the pieces after his garbage father died unopposed. And now on to Batman. Batman in this world, the DCEU, is the first superhero, from what we've been told. Aquaman's swimming in the water, not really caring. The Flash is like a 12. Cyborg was just created. As far as we know, there's nobody else, because Ryan Reynolds is much more popular as Deadpool. Wonder Woman had a role in World War I, and then nothing else since then. And Superman gets here, like, now. So Batman, just a guy, has had to deal with all of the DCEU's shenanigans, because Suicide Squad shows us that there have been villains. So he's had to deal with all of his villains. You know, the Jokers and the Deadshots and all those clowns. And he's also had to deal probably with like a Gorilla Grodd or the Weather Wizard. Like, all of the rogues galleries have fallen on Batman. Some of those guys Batman's not equipped to deal with, as you see by how beaten up Ben Affleck is in the Justice League movie. So this Batman, who has been the only hero operating in a vacuum, has just gotten hard and mean. Because one of the good things about Batman's friendship with Superman, his relationship and friendship with Dick, and his friendship with Diana, is they are lights that he believes in. That's one of the main reasons why Robin was there to begin with, because Robin was a light in Batman's darkness. You can't just stare into the void and deal with awful people and penguins over and over again without it affecting you. And we can see it has. it's very possible that a Batman on his own, shouldering all of the ills of the world, will turn into a Batman that casually murders KG beasts without even bothering to name them. Like, that's a very real result that can happen when you're operating in the void without a light on. So here's the thing. I don't think Zack Snyder ever read the comic I'm talking about. If you look at interviews that he's done, he doesn't seem to like or care about superheroes, especially the ones that he's been given ownership of to guide the cinematic fate of. So it's very likely that all this speculation is just in my head. However, if he did do this on purpose, if that one gravestone is a subtle explanation and lodestone for why everything is so dark, it kind of makes you wonder what would have happened if he got to tell the whole of the story he wanted to. Would we have learned more about Luthor, that Jesse Eisenberg isn't trying to be Lex Luthor, he's Luthor's, like, garbage son? Like, would we see that the dourness that we were shown with sky lasers destroying cities and Amanda Waller's being awful was just a product of when you don't have the light? Let me put it in another way. Zack Snyder also directed The Watchmen. The Watchmen movie, in my opinion, is the best opening? Nah, probably not the best. One of the best openings, because the Dawn of the Dead Johnny Cash montage, also wonderful, and it's really hard to beat Circle of Life and Lion King. One of the best openings. So Watchmen is one of the best openings, some of the best casting, especially Rorschach, and then a very beautiful disappointment. However, Watchmen is not the original, but the most go-to deconstruction of superheroes. It's, let's take the shiny golden thing that everyone loves and break it down so you could see that they're all just shitty adults. What if that one gravestone was a clue that what Zack Snyder was doing is starting with a deconstructed shitty world and then making it colorful, making it hopeful, and bringing us back up? Because we've gone through a period of deconstruction and cynicism and sadness and Donald Trump, and maybe Zack Snyder was planning to take us from there and show us organically how in a garbage world you can get to do. Maybe Zack Snyder was going to make a better movie than we thought, and we just didn't have the patience to wait the 21 movies or so like we did with Marvel. Well, thank you very much for joining me for this unorthodox version of Storytime. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you have opinions on my comic book ramblings today, please include them down below. I've also included in the description of this video links to those channels that I was talking about before because I like them. And if you are one of the 5 to 16 people that watch my videos, you might like them too. So for Sunday Storytime, I'm Rich Wisneski. This is To Karen with Love. Feel free to find us on all of them internets, and I'll be back to my regular format next week. And you can see that next week. You also can see new content on this channel every day forever. I'm Rich Wisneski. Thank you kindly.